I'm going to go ahead and hit record, and we're going to jump into it with Meghan. I'm really excited to have Meghan. She's talked to my classes and groups and has done the podcast a number of times now. She's one of our better speakers. They're all amazing, but Meghan does a really nice job, partly due to the fact she's a Trine grad. So
I don't agree that I'm like one of the better speakers. I personally hate doing things like this, especially, via Zoom. So I'll just plug through it. So guys, just, glad to be here, and thanks for the invite, Pod.
Well, how about as far as sharing her experiences? Meghan's really good and very open, very open. But she's been in the seat that you guys are in, and it was just about a decade ago where she was kind of sitting there. So she's got a really great story about how she started out and where she's gotten to today in minor league baseball. So I'll let her tell it. So Meghan, kind of tell us about your background. We'll go back to Genesis from when you were at Trine to where you are now.
Yeah, so Pod kind of mentioned it's been a decade since I've stepped foot on Trine for the first time as a student, and I really didn't think it was that long ago until I looked at the calendar and said, "Holy crap, it's 2020!" And I was just like you guys, a student at the time, and it was really about what did I want to do. I came from a very athletic background, loved sports, loved playing anything I could get my hands on growing up. And, growing up, we had season tickets to the Detroit Tigers, and it was the thing that we did with my friend group in the summer. We would always get in the car, go down and watch the Tigers, get something to eat, and we would probably do that 30 or 40 times over a 2-month span. And, you look at the game for what it is, and I'm a diehard, baseball fan through and through, and you start to look at things differently. You have your players on the field and everything that, is in between the white lines, but then when you look at it, you slow down and you realize what is going on outside of those white lines. So anything that is not being directly affected by a baseball player's play, whether it's concessions, whether it's marketing, whether it's sponsors, whether it's concessions, there's just so much that goes on to operate a physical baseball game. And, I realized that that's what I wanted to do. Did I know specifically what I wanted to do within that? I had no idea, to be honest, because there's just so much stuff to do, and I really needed to focus. About, I think it was my junior year, like many of you guys need that internship to graduate for credit or whatnot. And at the time, Professor Maddock was, the sport management lead, and he had a former student the year before me who got an internship with the Princeton Rays. At the time, the Appalachian League affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays. Really didn't know much about West Virginia. Was really my first time of, going away somewhere other than college, where I was 3 hours away from home, and I, could commute if I wanted to. So I took that opportunity for 3 months to move to a very small rural town, Princeton, West Virginia, and, literally be thrown into operating a minor league baseball team for a summer. And I think that was a make or break point for me of realizing what I wanted to do, and this is where I wanted to be. So it's a really key turning point into that direction of where I wanted to go. And I felt like that's where I wanted to be and where I belonged. I had a very clear vision of I never wanted to work in an office. I never wanted to be in a building. I wanted to be in a stadium. I wanted to go out and have lunch, behind the dugout, those cool things that you get to do just because you were there. And it was really like a turning point of like, this is where my next move is. Excuse me, guys. So after graduation, in the summer of 2014, was able to find another internship in the Tampa Bay system with the Hudson Valley Renegades. So another move up in baseball. Again, like if we're gonna sit here and talk about AAA, AA from an employee perspective, I don't get held up on I work in AAA baseball, I work in AA baseball, I work in single A baseball. It's all comparable and relative to what you want and what you are. It's not a big deal to me. Sold tickets there, worked in the box office. Just another, reality check of this is where I wanted to be. Did I want to sell tickets for my whole life? No, that was definitely something that kind of stuck out for me, but I knew it was my way into the industry and like a kind of a rite of passage and something that I had to do. And you just make the best of it. So I was there for about, 3-4 months throughout the season. And then it was time to, find that real first job that wasn't an internship or, a 3-month temp. Again, lucky enough to find a position within Ripken Baseball with the Aberdeen Ironbirds, Baltimore Orioles affiliate. There I did full-time sales. groups and single games. Again, loved the organization, loved what I was doing. Was there about 17 months. Some of the best times of my life, running around the field in a hot dog competition, wrestling a crab in mascot outfits. It's just some of the funnest times you'll have, and you'll look back and you'll be like, that's where I got my career started. And it's just a very humbling experience of kind of where you've come from and where you are today and where you guys eventually will be. Again, like I said, loved it. But just realized as I got older that, working those kind of hours wasn't something that I really wanted to dedicate myself to in the long run, and kind of wanted to find that next step. Knowing a couple of things that I wanted to be actively involved in baseball, specifically minor league baseball, just how, and what we do for the communities and everything that we're involved in. So then I was afforded the opportunity to come down to St. Petersburg, Florida, to work at the headquarters for minor league baseball. Took an executive assistant's job, which again, it may seem like a step backwards in title, but I think sometimes you look at a title for what it is, and it's exactly what it is. It's just a title. Did I schedule meetings and do stuff like that? 100%. But the things that I learned in those 12 months, if I wouldn't have learned them, wouldn't have gotten me to where I am now. I've been promoted twice since 2016. I've been here about 4 years now. Now I'm manager of partnership marketing. And again, I think just the journey, especially you guys are, freshmen, seniors, whatever. It's literally about the journey, and you just have to find out those points for you and where you want to go. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not easy. You're going to make decisions that will affect your life in the immediate future and, long term that you have to think about. And I was, I think lucky enough to have the support and make the right decisions for me to, be in the spot I am now. And, what the next 6 to 12 months brings, I don't know, but, just excited to be on the path that I am and see where it goes.
So you brought up something I hear from a lot of students, like, I just want to work in sport, and they don't necessarily know like what area of sport. In this freshman, they probably shouldn't, because there's so many different places where you could work. So talk to that a little bit, and we'll just stick with baseball. What are the different things they could do? I mean, sales is usually the easiest way, and it's the biggest path to get into because there's most opportunities, but not everybody wants to get into sales. So as far as baseball, what could they get into?
Yeah, I think baseball is so unique because there are so many opportunities, not even looking at, just how you operate as a baseball facility, but what are you doing outside of, a baseball season. So when I was in Aberdeen, obviously I sold tickets and stuff like that. So many opportunities to, sell partnerships, naming rights, those kind of things, outfield signs, just so many opportunities available. Community relations, one of the core things of minor league baseball is serving those communities that we live in. They are our base fan, and we have to go out and connect with them. So whether it's community relations, going out and engaging with, different groups, supporting police, supporting firefighters, those kind of things. In Aberdeen, Maryland, we were home to one of the largest Air Force bases on the East Coast. So we were very ingrained in military support and things like that. Baseball, I'm not technical or smart on anything like techie, but how are you running your game day presentation? Everything you see on the video board, that's technical stuff that I would have no idea. How you're changing batters and strikes, and I don't know. So there's a need for people like that who have that background. On-field entertainment, that's a huge part of what we did, and going out in the community every game and presenting the club like that. Operations, you've got a facility that you have to keep up top notch. When fans come into the stadium, they expect the seats to be clean, the trash taken out, stuff like that you may not want to do it, but I did it for a summer, and cleaning the bathrooms aren't the most fun thing that I've ever done. But I did it because it had to be done. Of course, there's that baseball side, which, we didn't have as much say because that came down from the major league club, but there are positions, within scouting and stuff like that. again, not something that I necessarily wanted to get into, but there are those opportunities if you're more on the baseball side and want to have an impact in player development.
So how did you move up in your career, or maybe kind of tell us a little bit what it is that you do? You know, you kind of took what I'm going to consider a traditional path where you graduated as a sport management student and kind of start out in sales, which a lot of our grads do. Again, if you just listen to her, you don't have to, right? There's so many different areas, but you started off in sales and now you're a little more on the activation side. So I'm talking about that in some of my classes, maybe kind of explain what activation is and, you know, as a career path, how could our students get into that?
Yeah, so off to my second screen, I've got the Marlins and the A's on. And looking at the backstop, I see, you know, Doosan. You know, Doosan is a corporate partner of Major League Baseball. You know, they have a contract with MLB that says you will get X assets. So whether that's, you know, naming rights to the ALDS, whether that's, you know, advertising on commercials, in stadium signage, like there is a physical contract somewhere that says these are the entitlements that you get. And then once that is sold into the partnership, there's most likely on the major league level, someone similar to myself who actually activates those rights. So making sure that, you know, Doosan is getting everything they physically signed up for, whether it's executing social media posts, executing digital rights on Major League Baseball's website, signage in the stadium, you know, airtime for commercials and stuff like that. I didn't know that like my job existed 3 years ago before I moved down to Florida and took this job. You know, as I exposed myself to more and more things, was lucky enough to work for someone who, you know, saw the willingness and want to learn in me, and, you know, slowly let me shift away from some of those executive assistant responsibilities and pick up some other responsibilities that ended up, you know, turning me into what I am now and where I am working. You know, and I say that I don't like sales. I don't like sales in the traditional role. You know, anybody who tells you you will not sell anything, even if you are not physically in sales, is flat out lying to you. I sell myself every day to my partners, to my clients. You know, if I have an idea of we should be activating one way or another, I have to sell that. Am I selling them something to give me money? No, I'm selling them an idea. And, you know, when you guys hit the job industry and the market, you will have to sell yourselves. You know, why you over you over you? It's something I still don't like, but I do it every day. And my former boss had this saying, always be selling. Again, you may not be selling a product, you may be selling an idea yourself or something else, but you will always be selling.
Boy, that's such great advice. So, you know, nobody just like lucks in or trips into the job that you have. So tell us about your career progression. How did you, you know, start in, you know, West Virginia as an internship? And I know exactly that internship, and it's not glamorous, to Aberdeen, to now you're in St. Pete with minor league baseball. Like, how did you work your way up the ladder?
Yeah, so I think one thing I've always been grateful for is a very supportive staff. You know, at Trine and how I continue my progression. You know, I got the internship because a student before me did a kick-ass job, and they knew that our reputation of bringing, you know, A+ interns, you know, put my foot in the door, and ultimately is why I got that position in West Virginia. Same can be said for my position in New York with the other Tampa Bay affiliates, because the GMs were so close to that relationship. It was an easy say, hey, Megan did a great job last year, no doubt, take her this year, and keep going up that way. So I think that's the same thing. You know, you have to be able to rely on those connections that you have and start building those connections from day one, because they will pay off tenfold in the end. You know, I took a gamble coming down to Florida. I personally didn't realize that like Florida existed outside of like Orlando and Disney World. No, I swear, like I never knew like what St. Petersburg or Tampa, Florida was before. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna apply to this job and see what happens. I had to pack a U-Haul in less than 2 weeks and move down to Florida. So I did that, and you know, it was definitely the right decision for me at the time, and just continuing to bust my butt of, you know, showing that I'm not only able but willing to go above and beyond and do my work and others, you know, work that's put on me to keep elevating, you know, in my progression. Like I said, in 4 years, promoted twice, you know, major salary bumps each time, and then just finding out what you want to do and, you know, never losing those relationships. Like I said, my previous boss left about, you know, we'll call it 2 months ago. And there's no doubt that he'll be a connection for life, and, definitely willing to go out and have my back in a job search or recommendation letter. He always said forever is a long time. And whether that's 2 weeks or 2 years or 20 years, you always have those connections to look back on.
So not burning bridges is always a good idea.
Yeah, never do that. You never know when, I don't know, in 5 years, one of you guys may be applying for a job that I'm hiring for. And, I see that you guys have a Trine connection. It's like, oh, it's naturally going to pique my interest and be like, hey, remember 5 years ago when you were on a, sport management com, like, oh yeah, like you have to keep those relationships building. It only takes one bad word of mouth in this industry to kind of completely shut you out. And, someone may not be willing to take a chance if they've heard negative things about you from someone else.
Yeah, I mean, sports is such a small industry, and I mean, you wouldn't think that just because of all the teams and organizations, but it seems like everybody crosses paths at some point. So what is a good way for, I mean, we always hear the word networking, but for students, like how can they start to build their network, or how can they get to know some people in the industry? As somebody who's a pro, like how would you want people to maybe approach you?
Yeah, I think, it definitely, like again, 10 years ago, I don't think Twitter was as evolved as it was. Social media definitely wasn't as evolved as it was. LinkedIn, I was very not engaged in on. But I think using social media professionally and smart can have an advantage, especially in today's, Twitterverse, where everybody is on Twitter. There's definitely a right and a wrong time to engage, making sure things are professional and cleaned up. I don't want to see pictures of you at your frat house, 10 beers in, having a beer bong on a somewhat looking professional page. Like that's an automatic no-no. I think just knowing how to present yourself in a professional way is first of all a big thing. And then also knowing when to, call upon favors. I'm connected with Pod on LinkedIn. Is there a student who, he knows that may, want to connect with me, and using those connections wisely. So if, Emily wanted to connect with myself, and I think Bryce, who I talked to a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, might have been for an assignment. Yeah, I passed on your info. Yeah.
Yeah, so using those connections wisely, we have a huge alumni base. Tony Miranda down in Indianapolis, Nathan in Indianapolis. Using those connections that so it's not a cold call. If Pod says, hey, more than willing to introduce you to alumni, take advantage of that. It is more than a cold call, and I'm more than likely to take the time out of my day because Pod said spend 30 minutes with this person and share your story. So just connecting the dots with who you know and who you want to be connected to. Also, don't be afraid to take chances. You guys are close to, Fort Wayne, South Bend. There's some great GMs in the area, specifically in minor league baseball. Mike Nutter, a great guy with the Tin Caps, more than willing to, hop on a call and share his story, which is a tremendous story, just what he's been through, and getting your name out there in the industry. I don't like networking. I don't like talking to people in awkward cold call situations. It's just not me. So anytime you can have that, prearranged meeting or that introduction, it always helps the situation.
And this will be my last question, then I'm going to open it up to you guys and fire away. But I've been really encouraged this semester, or I guess just overall this year. I'm starting to see a lot more females get into sport management. I mean, we got 4 on the call today, which it didn't seem like we had, half as many just the first year we had the sport management club. So what's it like as a female working in sport? Are there different hurdles to climb? Is it a different experience? Or, it's a just kind of, hey, we go to work, we're professional, we're all kind of tugging on the same rope. Just maybe from your perspective.
Yeah, I think, for me, sports have always been, the thing in my life that I've always gravitated to. I played hockey when I was 7 or 8, and I was the only female on the team, and it never stuck out as odd to me. I just wanted to play hockey. And, you kind of get that mentality of I'm just one of the guys, want to play hockey. And then you kind of realize that this path, oh crap, there aren't that many women in not only baseball, but sports alone. And it kind of gets discouraging of why am I the only one here? Part of the reason I left the Aberdeen, before I went to minor league baseball was, I was the only female there, and you kind of understanding what's going on and be like, I need a better situation for me personally and professionally to grow. And you have to find those organizations that are willing to, get at taking the bat on you and willing to help you grow. Minor league baseball has been nothing but fantastic of helping women not only gain traction, but gain, higher positions within the industry. We started a mentorship group within minor league baseball called LIFT. So I think it's Lifting and Inspiring Future Talent, where we pair, mentees and mentors. So more than 5 years in the industry, less than 5 years in the industry, and really connect them and encourage them to connect throughout the year of how did you get to where you want to be and what's the path I'm taking. So really inspiring to see all those women come together in the industry. And I think there's nothing stopping women, from obtaining those high positions in sports, just as smart, just as willing, just as ready, just as able. And I think you've seen in the National Football League, I think it was the Bronco or the Browns and the Redskins who each had a coach, and there was a female ref. Just taking those traditional male dominant jobs, there's no reason that women can't hold them. And it's only a matter of time. You see the commissioner of the WNBA, she's a female. Agents in Major League Baseball. Last night, I believe the NHL draft picked the first one overall, the first women agent to represent him. So again, we're breaking barriers. It's just, I think, taking longer than we would like. But there's no doubt, in the next 10, 20 years, we'll just be on the same playing field as men in the sports industry.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to shut up. You guys take it away. You've got a professional here. So
I do have one question for you.
Yeah.
What happened to the Cubs last week?
I knew you were going to bring that up. When you started talking about Twitter, I'm like, I know she's going to bring it up. They stinks. They just stinks. Their offense is terrible. Darvish.
You guys lost to the bottom feeders. Come on.
Hey, the fighting fish. They're a little more imposing than what you would think. So
I have a friend in the Marlins scouting organization who literally just lost her crap after they won. And I'm like, how do I get a seat on the bandwagon? And she's like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. How'd the Tigers do this year? Did they make the playoff?
Hey man, we got the third pick. That's all that matters.
Okay, we could keep going on forever. So I'm going to let you guys jump in here. Anybody got a question for Meghan?
So when you got out of college, was it easy for you to move around and you said you were only there for a year or two each place? Was that easy for you to move around and move all over the East Coast? Were you willing to do that?
I think for me, growing up, I was an only child. So first of all, I grew up in Michigan. I knew I didn't want to go to college in Michigan. I wanted to get away. And Professor Maddock used to say, have car, will travel. Mm-hmm. And I was definitely a big believer in that. Again, if you want to stay in your hometown, that's fine. And that's what you guys want to do. But just realizing that there may not be opportunities where you are. And if you want to work in sports or a specific, you probably will have to travel and be willing to do that. So 4 years in Florida, the longest I've been anywhere since trying, which again is amazing. But I think it's all it is all about what you're willing to give up to get to that right spot for you. I moved here within 2 weeks, didn't know anybody, didn't know anything. It's all about finding that community where you're at and finding that core group of, support, comfortability, and just having that group that supports you in what you're doing. And I love Florida. I came here knowing nobody, and then had the friends down here and the opportunity to do the stuff that we get to do. I wouldn't change anything.
And then follow-up for that, you said you've been promoted twice recently in the 4 years you've been there. Do you see yourself staying there for a while, or moving to a different job? Or
yeah, I think it just depends. I'm always one to keep my eye out for what's open. Not saying I fully commit to my job, but, I always get the teamwork notifications of so-and-so is hiring. It's just finding that next move for you, whether that's being promoted here or finding that next, senior manager position for that upward growth. Open to, new experiences is a big thing for me. love Florida, but, is there an opportunity in Seattle to see another part of the country? I think you just have to look everything whole picture of what you want to do, not only professionally, but personally as well.
Is teamworkonline.com, is that one of the better places to look for jobs? Are there other places students should be looking as well?
Yeah, I definitely follow Teamwork Online, and I still get notifications just, as a general, opportunities within certain organizations. Again, every team is probably going to have their own website. Teamworks just streamlines that for, everybody. Also, Front Office Sports does a weekly Wednesday newsletter of, the top 30 or so jobs. So that's a great lookout. Those are probably the main two that I use and recommend to others, but I'm sure there's plenty more out there. I think there's a couple of Twitter accounts that have just job postings in sports. I think Front Office Jobs is actually one. So I think it's just, looking and finding what, you want to do and finding if there's a specific, area where they post those.
I have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
So first one's kind of random. Where are you from in Michigan?
So I'm from Walled Lake, Michigan.
Is it by Detroit?
Yeah, it's probably I'm really bad at I literally have to go like this to show people where I'm at. So I'm probably 45 minutes from Detroit, Northville, Farmington, Novi area.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Are you from around there?
I'm from southwestern Michigan, so.
Okay.
And then the second question is, how do you think sports will change in the future due to the COVID situation?
I wasn't prepared for that one. I think it's a great question. And I think it's a question that, let me ask this. Has anybody been to a professional sporting event since the COVID crisis hit?
I was supposed to go to the Cowboys game over Thanksgiving, but now it looks like I'm not going to be able to go.
Okay. So, I think that's a twofold question. How do you get fans back into the stadium safely? We've seen select number of NFL, MLS, and types like that. MLB will be getting back into the stands, the next coming weeks. I think it comes down to consumer safety. Whether you are providing a safe experience for the person coming in that turnstile is going to be the number one question. And it's also going to be the confidence in the consumer of, do I feel safe going into that venue? So Florida, we've been a little more open than other places in the country. Over Labor Day weekend, I went to an Orlando City soccer match in Orlando. They only had about 5,000 people in the stands. So I went, I was over there for the weekend. The one thing that stood out very apparent to me is they are trying to make it as safe as possible. So masks on, before entry, while you enter. Hand sanitizer literally every 10 feet that you can get your hands on. Temperature check before you go into the building. No bags allowed. And then pod seating, kind of, 4 twos together. Again, I think stadiums are going to have to do a better job at keeping clean. We've all been to stadiums that haven't been the most cleanest. So that's going to be a focus. I think there's also going to be a focus on cashless. We've seen it with Atlanta and the Tampa Bay Rays over the past 2 years of no cash, straight debit card or, Apple on your phone. Reducing the number of touch points in the stadium is going to be key. And I think at the end of the day, sports will come out of this okay. Whether that's in 6 months or a year, I don't know. I can't predict that. But I think you'll have an eager fan base to get back into stadiums, to come together, that idea of community and unity in these, ballparks and stadiums around the country.
How has all this changed your job?
Well, it's October 7th, and we didn't play one minor league baseball game this year. We traditionally play 10,000 games across the country. So in the span of, I think we postponed our season on March 12th. In the span of 3 weeks, we basically redid all of our partnerships, from an in-stadium focus to where we had access to ballparks where the basically only assets we had were digital. So you take 6 months of planning and have to literally flip that upside down in 2 weeks to make sure that we're still activating partners to the best of our ability. also take into effect that their business objectives may have changed because of COVID and what was going on. So, for the first, let's call it mid-March through mid-April, we literally flipped of what we did in 6 months in 4 weeks to make sure that we were ready to go when we had an opening day. And that was the most challenging part. No one knew what was really going on. And like that, we had to flip and turn everything on a dime.
Did you also see, I think it came out today, the governor gave the go for the Dolphins to use full capacity in their stadium?
I did. I would not be one of those fans. Just personally how I feel, I would not, feel comfortable going into a full stadium right now. And if we're going to be honest, have the Dolphins ever really managed 65,000 people in their stadium in recent memory?
No, probably only the national championship games they hold there.
Yeah, again, I think it's all about what you're comfortable with. Again, if anybody else is comfortable going, that's your reason, and then that's fine. And I'm just not ready to go back into that large of a capacity and quantity with what's going on. But again, if people are safe and they want to go back, more power to them.
So have you guys begun to look towards next year already and are expecting fans?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just going to depend, like we've seen with local regulations and guidance. Of course, we're going to want to put as many fans in stands, but, we want to do it safely. We want to make sure that everybody, whether they're going to a game in California, Texas, Oregon, wherever, they're safe, and our teams are doing everything they can to, make sure that experience is one that the fans don't forget like they always do. Andrew, are you a Tampa Bay fan, or what's going on with the hat?
I just have the hat.
Okay.
Cheering for him against the Yankees, though, so see how that works out.
Man, I feel like just the whole playoffs are one big home run derby right now.
Yeah, I didn't realize they go so many days in a row.
Yeah, I think it's 5 days.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Well, speaking of that, I think you liked a tweet I had earlier this week.
Yeah.
But why in this time where just about it feels like everybody's stuck at home, are West Coast games going on at 10? Like, I understand it, and I think maybe you can't solve it, but just a way to vent. Like, why? If baseball wants to maintain fans, and we're all afraid that it's going to go away one day, right? Which it won't. But like, have they thought through this at all?
I did see your tweet last week. As I was watching the Padres-Dodgers game at 1:30 this morning, I think is when I finally gave it up. I personally questioned why I was watching this and why are we playing this late in the evening on the East Coast. Again, you arguably have the funnest team in baseball, the Padres, and one of the top tier teams in the Dodgers, starting at 9:38. Like, I don't know why. To me, it would have made sense if that was, maybe the 4:00 game for a 1:00 West Coast game. Mm-hmm. So again, they're probably, I don't think California's back in school. They're at home. Again, it just doesn't make sense of why the timing is working out. Again, I don't know why MLB is scheduling how they're scheduling. Again, I think it goes back to growing that fan base specifically of baseball. You need a younger generation to enjoy this game if baseball wants to survive long term. We can sit here and talk about unwritten rules and stuff like that all we want. But Ronald Acuna yesterday, who made some comments about, I'm not going to apologize for what he did about being hit. Like, why would you want him to apologize? Why is Fernando Tatis apologizing for hitting a ball 500 yards and hitting a grand slam? Trevor Bauer, single-handedly documented his whole COVID season and literally got threatened by MLB and some agents to take his stuff down when it was the most enjoyable 20 minutes of my week every week watching him blog. This is what we need in baseball.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Well, and you guys do a lot of that in minor league baseball. Like, what have been maybe some of the more fun promotions that you've got to be a part of? Because it's really, going to a minor league game, it's an experience.
Yeah, I mean, going to a minor league game, you could probably ask, I think there's 11 of on this call. You'd ask 8 of the 11 who the visiting team was probably they wouldn't know. And who lost the game, again, they probably wouldn't know. The thing I love about minor league baseball is it's just so community focused and, you know, family oriented. You know, I was seriously considering going to the World Series, you know, flying out to Dallas, getting a pod of tickets with a few of my friends out there. To get into a World Series game for the upper deck, almost $400. When you know you won't have the Texas Rangers there. So it'll probably be most likely two, fan bases that aren't dedicated to those two clubs. You have to make the game accessible, especially at a local level if you want to grow the game. And minor league baseball does that. I think our most recent, survey of cost is probably around $80 for a family of four to get in. So parking, tickets, food, stuff like that. Whether it's the celery mascot in, I don't even remember, Wilmington, or, just the fireworks and stuff like that. It's fun to be a part of and, have those community connections. Again, pod your son is what, 1?
Yeah.
Again, you take kids to these games and they don't know anything about baseball. The data shows that they'll probably spend at least 45 to 50 minutes in the play yard. And again, that's all they want. They don't want to watch baseball. They don't care about who's hitting home runs or the next pitching prospect. Fans go for the family entertainment, not to see the next stars of baseball. So minor league baseball does a good job at providing that access at a very relative low cost. And you can get them in at a young age and get them interested in the game.
Yeah, very cool. Any other questions for Meghan while we have her? So if anybody wants to get a hold of you and, just maybe do an informational interview or just kind of bounce some career ideas, is there a good way for them to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best, or my email, which I'm sure Pod you can share,
Yep.
Or Twitter. Let me check my Twitter account, my handle. I'm really bad at Twitter. So at @MM_Madson1. Always hit me up. I like to think I'm a good follow. Probably not though, so I'll leave that up to you guys. But yeah, more than happy, like Pod mentioned, to connect. And I know what you guys, are going through right now. The freshmen who may not have an idea to, a junior, senior level of, you have some idea but just don't know how to go about it. More than happy to spend, 30 minutes and talk through that.
Excellent. Well, Meghan, thanks so much for joining us. This was great information, and it's always nice to have a Trine grad kind of join the group and talk. And I also want to thank the leadership of the Sport Management Club today, like Andy stepping in for Adam, who's at practice. Nikki's doing a great job with our social media. So as much as information you can get her about internships and other things that she can highlight, it's fantastic. Poor Alyssa, I feel like I email her hourly with stuff, and she's doing a great job of turning it around. So great job. Anything else before we wrap this up and let Meghan get back to watching baseball?
Can I just say one thing? When I was a freshman 10 years ago, we didn't have any of this. We didn't have a sport management club. We didn't go on immersion excursions. We didn't connect with others in the industry. So I think kudos to Pod and, the leadership on this call of, getting out there and doing stuff like this. At the end of the day, it's just going to help you guys. And, your willingness to engage, they can provide you with all the opportunities in the world. But if you're not going to go to these things and ask questions and network, at the end of the day, you're just hurting yourselves, guys. Take advantage of every opportunity you get.
Great advice. Outstanding advice there. So, all right. Well, thanks again, everybody. I'm going to wrap up this call and we'll put the video on YouTube. And Meghan, thanks again. You were awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks.
Hey.